And the whole thing behind that was because there was a thing going on back then with the United States and England as well, where it was kind of like an ego thing. Now here in the United States, it's illegal according to the United States to go against the Union. If you want to secede as a state against the United States Union, then it's automatic declaration of war. You know, a lot of people don't know that. You know that.
Really?
Yeah, it's through the Proclamation Declaration. That freed the slaves, but it was also a double-edged sword.
That didn't work for Texas, though.
Well, Texas
became
became a part of the United States in a different arrangement, and so I mean it's. But the proclamation, that's what that did. It actually made it to where it was an automatic act of war if you tried to secede from the Union.
Huh.
And that's kind of where Canada did the whole thing, where they did. It was just kind of like a show of ego. Look how great we are compared to you. Which, in a sense, I agree that. That's something that the United States should never have done. If the state wants to secede, they should have the right to do it without any kind of aggression. But
well, the Supreme Court was also close to agreeing with you, Roger. As I recall, Lincoln was very close to arresting the Supreme Court at one point if they wouldn't agree with him that he could stop the secession.
It's crazy.
I was going to say it could be worse. It could be the contest with the Chagos Islands. Britain and Nourish.
Now that one was just here recently, wasn't it?
It's still going on.
Yeah. Well, those are a bunch of rich, powerful people, though. I mean, like, I did research into those people. They live like down in Sussex and stuff. Like these are people that got imported in from that island, given like tons of money for their property on this island, and now they live in mansions, and they're saying that they want their island back. You know what I mean?
I think that's a bit of a stereotype.
I'm pretty sure it's a pretty good.
To give their mansion back, they could have their island back, right?
Right. Well, that goes into what you guys were talking about too. It's just a political ploy. I mean, that's really what it is. Like these people are living high off the hog in freaking England.
Maybe.
We actually did a show on it, dude.
You made a lot of wild sort of.
No, they were facts. I actually checked it out while we were doing the show. These people are like living in the richest areas.
You still made fairly broad arguments there, I think.
Well, they live in like some of the richest areas of England, dude. I mean, the people who are wanting that freaking island back are rich. They are filthy rich.
All of them are. Okay.
Well, if they're rich, they should have an island if they want one, right?
Right.
They can use that wealth for political influence.
On the other hand, it could be the same sort of arguments as the Falkland Islands. Los
Islas Malvinas, por favor.
Yeah.
That's like not Hollywood, but Beverly Hills saying they want their own country. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they could have it. But, this reminds me of something. It's sort of unrelated, but I know that goes back a very long way. There were arguments about fishing rights off of eastern Canada with the French, because the French would go out there and fish. And there was at one point where they had like an actual British patrol out there to like maintain the treaty. They had like special treaties about how much fish you could take and this and that. But I seem to remember something. I was listening to it on the radio, and this must have been, it had to be like the late 80s or early 90s. And something about the French actually sent the Foreign Legion to an island off the coast of Canada at one point or something. It was something about the British, the Canadian fleet was going to go out and try to stop these French factory ships, which they claimed were just sucking in all the fish. Something like that. And I believe they actually got some military units were involved. I mean, everything was settled. There was no shots were fired. Obviously, Canada and France are not going to start shooting at each other. But there was like a rumble I guess you'd call it, over the fish. Again, this is something I'm remembering from years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah,
so.
Yes, that reminds me of the so-called Cod Wars, Iceland and Britain.
Oh.
Yeah, I think 75, 76. Similar sort of situation there. Yeah, 76. Similar sort of situation there, where it could have gone into a sort of full-scale conflict.
Right.
Especially with Canada, though, because like Canada is just infested with French people. You know what I mean? Like, if
Well,
My stink gland is weak.
if you,
Well, infested with French people. It's just one province, man. Even though we're
everywhere.
a bilingual country, it's just Quebec is.
that seems kind of odd that they make the whole country learn French when only one tiny area of it.
Yeah, right.
I am
Yeah.
sure that in Manitoba they're not all speaking French fluently all the time. In Saskatchewan, we're really into our French classes here. I mean,
see, I would be better with Canadian politics if I could understand how it works, because it's really tricky. It really is.
Canadian-
how any politics
Canadian
work.
Yeah, it's very
Canadian
similar to
politics
any
is
other
very
country.
boring.
Really?
Oh,
Are
no.
It's boring. It's very boring compared to the United States.
In things like Prime Minister's question or British Prime Minister's questions on Wednesdays.
Hold on. I want to point something out. There's politics. There's politics. There's real politics, and then there's what you call politics. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Canada's politics are not boring. They are very interesting if you look at it as real politics. Now,
Right, Professor.
like the fact that whenever somebody's running for office, they have to speak both in French and English.
That's true.
Really? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That is
They need
insane.
to learn French if they can't.
Right. And they've actually started catching Canadian politicians saying two separate things entirely because of the languages. like they will tell French people what they want to hear, and then they'll turn around and say the complete opposite to people who speak English because that's what they want to hear.
Politicians green, actually.
Who does that?
Canadians.
Which Canadian, man?
That's an answer.
Which
What
Canadian?
Canadian guy?
They're the only country that I know who does that.
I mean, doesn't the United States have a bilingual?
We don't. I mean,
No.
no, we don't do that.
No.
Spanish is not a official language.
There are areas of the country where I've lived in places where Spanish is very widely spoken. We don't have any official bilingualism. I know, usually, if you go to a government office, they'll have the forms printed in several, like a dozen languages, just to make it easier for people. But there's no official. I don't even think we have an official language as such. They might have changed that recently. But I have lived in places where I lived in a place called Little Haiti for a short time, Northwest 58th Street in Miami, and all you heard was Creole. You never heard English there. And I've lived places with a very large Spanish-speaking population. And around here, actually, we have, it's an agricultural area, and they do have migrant workers come in, all legal, of course, but they do have migrant workers come in who mostly speak Spanish. And, you run into the store. I get to practice my Spanish a little bit. Hola, ¿qué pasa, amigo? Yeah. Stuff like that. But English is the official. That's the most widely spoken language. In theory, if you speak English, you can go anywhere in the United States and be understood more or less.
And our schools are real lenient about helping Spanish students. Like they'll have classes set up to where they are like Spanish teachers that teach Spanish students.
It sounds like Spanish is bordering to become an official language in your country because recently, did you not notice that your Secretary of State spoke in Spanish in one of his press conferences? He started, So President Trump starts speaking English, and then he asked Marco Rubio to translate or ask for an interpreter or something, and then Marco said, "Hey, I can translate it," and then he starts spewing out Spanish, and he's very eloquent in it too.
Bob, you have to speak up louder because those Canadians, they just like to just make it to where you can't talk. So
they dominate the conversation.
The
maple leaf has arrived.
you were getting ready to say something. What was you gonna say? Is she there?
Bob?
I was getting ready to say something.
Was you getting ready to say something?
No, dude, I'm just listening to you guys talking about interesting stuff.
Oh,
I've got something on actually. There was a case. There was a by-election in UK in the Gorton and Denton constituency back in late February, where the Green Party actually started advertising in Urdu.
Urdu. Oh yeah.
And that's being investigated. I believe that's being investigated at the moment because this one I think actually they did win the election, the Green Party, and there's questions about if that was legitimate or not.
Urdu is the language of Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
Are there a big population of Pakistanis in the UK?
See, that's kind of why I like our Constitution, is because like a lot of the stuff that you guys talk about in your politics when it comes to constitutional law, it's a lot different than what ours is. You know what I mean? Because like we kind of like make it a generalization rather than be very specific about things. Like our Bill of Rights, the reason why the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists had their issues here in the United States was because the Federalists didn't think that the Bill of Rights should have been written, because when you make Bill of Rights, it gives the impression that those are the only rights you have, whereas the Constitution doesn't say that. It says that we are free men, you know what I mean, according to our conscience. So if you're doing the right thing, then you're a free man, period, and the government has no right to tell you what to do as long as you're doing the right thing.
Define the right thing.
You know what it is. You go according to your conscience, and if you're not consciously able to determine what the right thing or the wrong thing is, and then the group conscience, which is our sovereignty, takes over and shows you what the right thing is. That's called prison.
That's sort of like the Volksgenossen concept in National Socialism.
Yeah.
The idea that the authority ultimately derives from the people. But to go back a little bit to something Mark said earlier, and I think I've mentioned this before, you mentioned the Prime Minister's questions, which I think I told you I had an experience many years ago. I was working somewhere overnights and the TV was on and they were just showing like just live streaming political stuff, and it was the middle of the night, and they were live streaming Parliament, and it must have been, what did you say, Mark, Wednesday nights? It must have been Wednesday for them, and I believe it was Tony Blair. I could be mistaken, so that's how long ago this was. And I think we probably had Bush Jr. in the White House, who was not the most eloquent of people. And I just remember, whatever else you think about Blair, he had to field these really difficult questions from people who were obviously his political opponents. And they'd throw hardballs at him. What about this? What about that? And he had to answer right then and there. And I mean, he could say, well, I want notice of that, but most of the time, he just fielded the questions as they came without a script. And I was thinking to myself, I wish we had a leader that could do that, because I don't think like George Bush the Younger